motivated by or crosses the line into anti-Semitism? Joining us to discuss that question on the Jewish Forum is Ruthie Bloom, columnist for Jewish News Syndicate from here in Tel Aviv. Marc Schulman, editor-in-chief of History Central and a columnist for Newsweek, also here in Israel. And joining us from Washington, D.C., Ron Campius, bureau chief there of the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, or JTA. Marc, let me just start with you. George Soros, Marc, how much of that criticism of him is motivated by anti-Semitism or crosses the line into it?
The issue is not so much criticizing him. If you want to criticize specific things that he may or may not have done, that's fine. That's not anti-Semitic to say he's done X, Y, and Z. What's become incredibly anti-Semitic is every single act anywhere that the conservatives disagree with, Soros is behind it. Soros did this, Soros did that. Soros appears in this cartoon, Soros is everywhere. And Soros everywhere is the same thing as saying the elders of Zion are behind everything. So it's absolutely anti-Semitic when you find Soros behind every door, behind everything. What his particular actions, criticize them all you want. Gives money to X, Y, and Z, that's fine. If you want to criticize that, that's wrong. But it's fine. But if you want to say that Soros is behind everything, it is clearly anti-Semitic. It started with the Hungarians who used Soros as a campaign against the liberals in Hungary. He was Jewish and it was a good foil to use. And the Republicans in the United States have picked it up. And so Soros, that's anti-Semitism everywhere.
All right. Well, Ruthie Bloom, Marc says the conservatives, Republicans have picked up George Soros as their all-purpose boogeyman. How do you respond to that?
Well, in a way, he's right, but it's not that all conservatives and right-wingers are anti-Semites and use him as the kind of symbol of, the Jewish world conspiracy. This is largely Soros's own fault because he takes credit for funding politicians on the left, and he believes in police reforms that have increased crime everywhere. The thing is that attacking him for those things, that's just politics. I mean, Marc did touch on that. It's politics to attack him on those things. And so naturally conservatives are going to go after him because he funds and supports causes that they oppose. There are anti-Semites who go after him. But the bulk of the criticism, I would say, is absolutely not anti-Semitic. It is definitely along political, ideological lines.
All right. Well, Ron, you could respond to that and also maybe put this into the broader context, especially of the political debate in the United States and how Soros has become such a key part of that.
Yeah, Soros was a major liberal funder in the 2004 election. He helped boost MoveOn.org. I think he gave it $25 million or something, which then was like an outstanding kind of number, and now is kind of relatively paltry, but still, he was prominent. He's definitely somebody who favors liberal prosecutors. I think the question is where that legitimate kind of political attack, as Ruthie describes it, crosses over into the conspiracy theories that Marc describes. And so, for instance, where I live in Virginia, there was an election a couple of years ago for governor, and certainly Soros was backing liberal prosecutors in the state. That could be a legitimate way of bringing him into the debate. But then at one point, Glenn Youngkin, the governor, accused Soros of stacking school boards in the state. And so not only, first of all, is that not true? There's one flag as to whether you're crossing over into something a little bit beyond political criticism, but you're also talking about blaming somebody for endangering children, for trying to control the minds of children. Another flag. Is that anti-Semitism? I don't know, but it starts creeping into that area. So it's not, as they would say in Hebrew, it's not chad v'chalak. You have to. It's kind of more a gradation between. You start on legitimate criticism on this side, you end up with anti-Semitism on the other side, and you want to start flagging the warning signs as you make your way there.
All right, you know what? Let's take a look at some specific examples. One prominent figure who's also in the news lately, Tucker Carlson, formerly now of Fox News, has talked a lot about George Soros. Let's look at a bit of that.
in a new Tucker Carlson Originals.
George Soros is a billionaire who has spent decades waging a kind of war.
Watch as Tucker exposes the left's globalist ideals and the fight for civilization. Hungary versus Soros.
In the years since, Soros has become richer still, billions and billions of dollars richer. George Soros has become so rich that at this point, Western governments rarely fight back when he interferes in their most basic domestic affairs, the most important domestic affair.
Well, Ruthie, let me ask you, using terms as a globalist and fight for civilization, and saying there's a graphic he used on that special, all roads lead to Soros. Does that cross the line into anti-Semitism?
No, because I happen to believe that if Soros were not a Jew, Tucker would still have had the same program. And that's why I think it doesn't cross the line into anti-Semitism. It's possible that Tucker is exaggerating. You could say that Tucker crosses other kinds of red lines, which is to say that he doesn't back up his claim that Soros is behind everything. Okay? But I really believe that if Soros were not a Jew, Tucker would still have the same opinion of him because of the causes he supports and the money he invests.
But there are other people who support all sorts of causes all over the world, liberal causes, almost or as rich as Soros. And it's Soros's name who's used repeatedly. I mean, you can't look anywhere. Soros is behind everything. Every liberal cause in the world, Soros is behind. The man is very, very busy at 93, behind so many causes all the time. I mean, it's absurd. By using Soros, it's a call letter to anti-Semitism. Quiet or not, that's what you're doing. When you're saying Soros, you're saying Jew. I mean, you're doing that. It's clearly anti-Semitic.
Well, I want to bring Ron in. Mark has a point there. The Ford Foundation, which was founded by a real anti-Semite many years ago, now is a major backer of liberal and progressive causes. You don't hear as much about that. How do you respond to these points, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you start off like you don't necessarily start off bigoted or anti-Semitic in a particular situation, but you seize on things. It's human nature to seize on elements that resonate with others. And so, yes, with Soros, I think that the people who start attacking him find out that they get support, they get resonance from people who are anti-Semites, and it becomes hard to, it's like, it's hard to resist for them, at least, to get into those, to press those buttons. So I think Ruthie is right. I think Tucker Carlson would be attacking somebody like Soros, but I don't think he would necessarily be using the same tropes, calling him a globalist, that kind of thing. And so that's what I'm saying. You might start off your criticism of Soros from a particularly an absolutely legitimate point of political view, but then you might slip into anti-Semitism. Same thing works with women politicians who you attack them because they're your rival in the election, and then your attacks slip into misogyny because that's the easy thing to do. It's an easy way to marginalize them. Ask somebody like Nikki Haley here in the United States.
All right, well, Ruthie, you have something. I do know. I want to give Ruthie a chance to respond because Mark is saying that you don't hear as much about non-Jewish sponsors of liberal causes. And Ron is saying there's certain language used, such as globalist, for example, that does seem to slip over into anti-Semitic tropes. Ruthie?
Okay, but the thing is that Soros is a globalist. So accusing him of that is not necessarily anti-Semitic. And as I said, had he not been a Jew, and you're right about the Ford Foundation, although I have to say in the circles in which I travel, the Ford Foundation has been raised as an issue many times, okay? And
not by Tucker Carlson, who says all roads lead to Soros.
Right, but you see, Soros you're right that it's become a kind of code word for this left-wing. See, I would call it more like a left-wing conspiracy than a Jewish one, if you were talking about conspiracy theories. I have exactly the same criticisms of Soros as others, and I'm a Jew, so, and I know many Jews who agree with me as well. So there's where it's tricky.
All right, well, Mark...
It's tricky because criticizing Soros is fine. I mean, there are many things I'm sure I would criticize Soros about too, but I just don't believe he's behind every liberal cause in the United States.
Right.
And I don't use his name every time I disagree with something. And that's being used repeatedly. Soros is always brought up. Soros. The cartoons have Soros. Everywhere is it Soros. And that's what makes it anti-Semitic.
Ron, you've written that there's been a surge just in the past month because of the Trump indictment, which he certainly didn't have anything directly to do with.
Yeah, he didn't. He paid a foundation, or a PAC, a political action committee that backs progressive prosecutors, because that is true. That is very much part of his agenda. And that political action committee backed Alvin Bragg. I think it was, people thought it was $1 million. It turned out to be less than $1 million. But in any case, there's nothing in there that suggests that he went out to look for prosecutors who were going to prosecute Trump. It had nothing to do with it. It was because they shared certain progressive values, and that's where the problematics come in. Sort of attaching it. You go from 6 degrees of separation to 1 degree of separation, and then you get this sort of Soros boogeyman.
All right. I just want to give a last chance to respond to Ruthie. Is George Soros a boogeyman?
Well, he may be now, since he's so famous and so wealthy, it's an easy sort of tagline. But I don't believe that most of the criticism against him is anti-Semitism.
All right. Well, Ruthie Bloom from the Jewish News Syndicate, Marc Schulman of History Central and Newsweek, Ron Campius of the JTA Jewish Telegraphic Agency. Thank you for joining us on this week's Jewish Forum.